Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, I'm Katie and welcome to another bookish adventure. So today we are doing the mid-year freakout tag. I meant to do this before last year, but it was one of the things like I remembered I wanted to do it and then it was too late to do it. But this year, I've actually remembered. I've had a pretty good year so far reading wise. I think I'm on about 17 books. This is probably the highest amount I've ever got this early on into the year. And some of that may be down to furloughing. I don't really know. I can't say I've been reading any extra. I've just, been sort of setting aside an hour a day and reading, at least like weekdays, but I haven't been sat like reading for like 6 hours straight or anything. So we've got 13 questions, let's get to it. First of all, best book you've read in 2020. That would be Kingdom of Ashes by Sarah J Maas. This book destroyed me, oh my goodness. It was the end of a very long and emotional saga and it was my first 5-star book of the year and it was just, oh my god, I absolutely loved it. If you want to see my Throne of Glass sort of journey, then I have a playlist which has got all my weekly reading vlogs plus my reviews of each book. The next question is the best sequel you've read so far in 2020. To be honest, I haven't actually read a lot of sequels this year so far. I've started a lot of books, I haven't gotten to the sequels. So the only one I can really give it to is Heroes by Stephen Fry. I'm actually currently in the middle of reading this. I know, I really probably shouldn't be awarding it anything. It is the only sequel so far that I have enjoyed this year. I loved the first book, Mythos, which is basically not quite Greek retellings, but it's just being brought to us in a simplified way and more understandable, and there is a lot of avenues in which you could go down and he has brought them to us. So Mythos sort of started with the beginning of everything, so the beginning of the gods and all the gods that came from that, and then their, I guess, adventures. This one, as you can tell, focuses on the heroes, so people like Hercules or Hercules, Jason, Perseus, so all of those that we know. I've so far learned quite a lot to do with Hercules, which some of it I already knew, but not all of it. I'm also listening to this in audiobook and it is just even better because Stephen Fry's voice is great, but it also kind of has that British humour tweak to it in the voices that he gives his characters. Might not be suitable for all, but for me it's definitely up my alley. Number 3 is new releases that you haven't read yet but you want to. So we could be here for a while. I have tried to narrow it down as best as I can because there are a lot of books that I want to read. First up is A Song of Wraith and Ruins. This one I mentioned in my books by black authors that are going straight at the top of my wish list. I'm really looking forward to reading this. This is about two people, one a refugee who is trying to win and find a better life for his family, and when he enters this city, vengeful spirits take his sister, and to get her back he makes the agreement to assassinate the princess. On the flip side of this, our princess, her mother has just been assassinated and she's basically got everything coming at her from all sides. She has this festival which is looming near, which is like this competition, so she decides that she's going to dabble in some dark arts and she's going to resurrect her mum, and the only way she can do that is by getting the heart of a king, and the way you get the heart of the king is by agreeing to marrying the victor of the games. Our refugee has somehow rigged the contest for him to be an applicant. It's basically the two of them on a collision course, slowly coming together, basically planning to kill the other. This also has a romance element into it, but I'm just really interested in the magical aspect of it and the Western folklore aspect of it. Plus, it would be nice to actually read something about two people who've ended up destined to meet. The next up is A Court of Miracles. I know this is like not quite released, almost released, but I'm counting it. So this one is kind of being described as that Les Miserables meets Six of Crows, so I am very interested in that aspect. I still haven't read Six of Crows, it's on my to-do list, but I like the idea of it. I like this era of France as a setting to live in. Awful, but as a setting, really cool. I think probably because I watched Versailles and saw the glamour side of it in King Louis's court, I now want to see the other side of it, which is the downtrodden world. So this is kind of like a parallel France where the French Revolution has happened and it's basically kind of run between two fractions. It is the guild, which is basically these different criminal sects, and then you have the royals, and it just seems really interesting and just really different from a lot of stuff I want to read. The other book I want to read is Hold Back the Tide by Melinda Salisbury, probably because the description of this book is incredibly vague and I really like that. It is a standalone which also drew to me, and it's about a young girl who lives in Scotland with her dad, and everyone, or at least she does, believes he killed someone, and I think the point of this book is not necessarily the story, but it is more her story. It is the fear and the tenseness of their relationship and that side of it. So I don't know if this is going to be her getting to the truth of what really happened, but a lot of reviews I've read have like, without trying to be too spoilery, have all said it's very tense, it's very atmospheric, and that actually the book is more to do with that than the actual story, if that makes sense. That probably does not make sense. And then the final book I want to read is The Deathless Girls by Kira Millward Harwood. I am so obsessed with this lady. I cannot even. I have been reading a lot of her kids lit, and she's been doing more in the way of YA or adult books, and this one I didn't actually realise was an origin story for The Brides of Dracula. I had read the original synopsis and it didn't include that until I actually physically received this book, about these two twins who were kidnapped on the eve of their birthday, and they are forced to work as slaves, where they meet other girls whilst there, and they kind of just form this little band of hope together. However, they've heard of this mythical dragon who is sort of more monster than man, and he is going to be our Dracula. So I've never watched or read anything that has been The Brides of Dracula orientated, so that has really got me like, oh, okay, this seems really cool and really different. Next up we have most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. It is not very often I pre-order a book. I just add it onto my wish list and I eventually get to it and buy it when I want it, but it's been a very long time since I've actually ever pre-ordered a book, and I have pre-ordered Troy by Stephen Fry. I didn't know he was continuing this series, if he was going to do more. I'm really excited to do it. I watched the BBC adaptation of Troy and I really enjoyed it. I just love Greek mythology, and I am now aware that there is so much more to the actual story and the gods that play a part of it. Before I was only ever aware of that, you know, this guy going after this girl and just all hell breaking loose. I was never aware of the actual impact of the gods, which now reading his books I'm like, well, of course they had something to do with it. The other book I'm waiting for is A Song of Birds and Bone, and that also is by Kira Millward Harwood, but this is her children's lit. So all of her kids lit seem to focus around children set in these either islands or remote places, or they're just in various different lands. The first one was an island, the next one has been somewhere which is like pretty much snow abound. I haven't read the third book, but this one takes place in Italy after a plague, and their mother, she carves like pretty much mementos out of people's bones. Wonderful hobby. And then one day she just doesn't come back, and they are sent to an orphanage, and her brother basically escape with, I think, the help of a crow, to try and find out where and what happened to their mum. I just love these books. Even though they're really small, they are just so magical. She creates this amazing world. She's created amazing like folklore and stories in that world, and just for something so short, it is really captivating. Question 5, your biggest disappointment. Sea of Ashes by Cassandra Clare. So if you have watched any of my weekly reading vlogs or watched my reviews to do with this, so far it is just not great. It's not doing it for me. It's just not. I think I was generous with the first book in giving it 3 stars, probably because of the world that she created. I really should have given it 2. I gave this 2 stars. Just nothing happens, just a bunch of stories happen, and that's kind of it. Like, the driving force that should be the plot, which should be stopping Valentine and getting the mortal instrument, just doesn't seem to be the driving force of this book. I discovered an entire new level of hate for Jace and Clary in this book, particularly Jace. I think it was just, there was no redeeming qualities about him. I wanted to empathize with him and feel bad, but he just, his attitude in life is to push people away and to be snarky and do whatever, and that's not my cup of tea. Even as a teenager, if I'd read these, I still would have found that kind of behavior just so grating. I am currently in the middle of reading the 3rd book, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm enjoying it. I don't want to jinx it. It has finally gotten better, but this one for me was just, it was bad. I've read the first 2 and I'm like, I don't get the hype. The next one is your biggest surprise. Flame and the Mist by Renee Ahdieh. So this one surprised me for a few reasons. This is kind of like a Mulan retelling of sorts. It is about a young girl who is on her way to go and meet her future husband, and on the way her convoy is attacked, and she decides that instead of going home, she's going to infiltrate the Black Clan, who she holds as responsible, to find out why, like who hired them. Was someone trying to target their family? Was someone trying to target the royal family of who she was going to marry? So yeah, she decides to infiltrate, and then because of this, she obviously has to pretend to be a man, and slowly they value her as a man and for her natural traits. So what I found surprising about this book was it literally starts the minute she's in the carriage on the way to go and meet her betrothed. There is no lead up to it. There is no getting to know her as her and the difficulties she faces with her families and being slightly different. It is just like, oh, okay, like we're on our way, here we go. There's also multiple point of views, which I didn't expect, although they're not all the time. I just wasn't expecting to have point of views from her brother and from a couple of clans member, and also some people in the royal household, which I think just adds to the trying to figure out who really knows what and who could be trusted. I can't wait to read the second one of this. I also have these short stories on my Kindle as well. But yeah, this just was so much more than what I was expecting. And again, it started in the middle of, oh, holy crap, she's literally about to get attacked now. Number 7 is favourite new author, whether it's a debut or just new to you. And that one would be April Genevieve. I want to say, I can't, you know what, I'm not even going to do it. So I recently read The Bonus Mercies and I just loved the world that she created, this Forceland, which is obviously very heavily Norse inspired. I just thought it was gorgeous. I have now recently discovered that she has another book based in this same place, which I think is slightly a King Arthur retelling, which I am now so thrilled about. It's not the next book I would have liked, but I don't care. I just want more of the world that she's created. Number 8 is newest fictional crush. So I don't get the whole fictional crush thing. I just don't. I don't think I've ever really read a book and been like, yeah, I think probably the only person, maybe Kale from Throne of Glass, but that was more like, I need to protect that baby. I don't even think that was like, I'm attracted to him. It was just like, oh my god, I need to protect that baby. So yeah, I can't really, it's got to be a hard pass for me. Newest favorite character, again a hard one. I haven't found anyone that I've completely been like, oh my god, in any new books. However, I do really like Juniper the Sea Witch in this book. There's just something, considering what this story is about, the sadness of what they do and the fact they work in the death trade, there is something just really just light and whimsical about her. And then when you finally get to go back to the Merrows where she comes from, with the other witches, it's just something so different from the death trade and the warrior lifestyle that and the glory that they're seeking. So yeah, Juniper was just really sweet. She was just this nice little lightness in a troop of people where, you know, they are quite weighed down with the burden of what they do. A book that made you cry, and again, Kingdom of Ash. This book really got me, really made me sob. Not like just at the end, but at several points in this book it really got me. Oh my god. And I think also once I made the review and I really sat back and actually talked about those scenes, they really got me emotionally again, because it was the real realization of, oh wow. But yeah, this book, whew, and several of them before, so it's not even like it all culminated in this one. There have been tears shed prior to this, and it was just the fear of what the hell is going to happen to my babies. And the closer it was getting to the end, the worry was getting bigger. Number 11, a book that made you happy. Wonderstruck by Brian Selznick. This book is just glorious. It is stunning. It is in both format of written and illustration, and the illustrations are stunning, and how this story just managed to just somehow connect and compel me. It was just glorious. I mean, I had little sheds of tears because it was just so beautiful. It is about two children who set decades apart, but their stories take place at the same time, so it helps with the illustrative narrative against the regular, because they're pretty much doing the same thing, but the two children are connected. It was just really gorgeous. I'm so annoyed I've waited so long to read this, and to read Hugo Haberot, which is still on my list to read, and I'm so glad Gavin picked this, because although it is massive and really quite heavy and hurting my hand, it is so stunning. And after I finished reading it, I was like, this book is magical. Number 12, most beautiful book you have received or bought for yourself. So I recently decided that I wanted to read Terry Pratchett. I've finally grown some balls and decided to do this, and I found the most beautiful edition. So this is Mort and the Reaper Man, and there's so much about these that I absolutely love. The feel of them is just, ooh, it's just wonderful. I also have Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, but it's just the feel of them, the texture of them, just the illustrations alone. You have that small bit of reflective on both books. So excited now to, I know that sounds really bad to be like, oh, I'm excited to read them because they're so pretty, but I'm not gonna lie, it definitely helps. I'm really excited to collect the rest of them and to see the rest of the beautiful artwork, and the same with reading The Witches. These are just, oh, so stunning. And then finally, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So quite a lot, to be honest. Started The Northern Lights, and I would be really happy if I got at least the second book done. I'd love to get all three because, you know, they've been on my DBR for a long time. Definitely finishing the second book to The Flame in the Mist, because again, it was such a surprise and I just didn't think I'd enjoy it as much as I did. I have some really interesting books still to come. I still want to read The Tales of Earthsea, which Gavin's friend Craig loaned me last Easter. My bad. Ooh, I've gotten out of like not being able to see him and be like, I'm sorry, I haven't read this yet. Still need to read that. I also want to read Pan's Labyrinth. I was traumatized by that film, yet I still wonderfully love it. So I really want to read that. I don't know why, because it's going to be traumatic. I'm also planning on doing Six of Crows. It wasn't a book I naturally gravitated to, and I don't know why, so I just really want to give it a chance now. I've also got Krampus, thank you so much Alice, still to come. I also want to reread Dracula for Halloween. I will be reading Dr. Sleep, which I'm pretty actually excited to do. Last year Sam really wanted me to read Stephen King and she really wanted me to read The Shining, so I did, and I enjoyed it more than I thought. So I was like, you know what, okay, we're gonna give Dr. Sleep a go. So I'm actually really excited to it. I want to listen to Dracula. I really want to do an audiobook of that. And she also bought me, I don't know where she found it, The Historian, which is kind of a sequel to Dracula, and it's a book that she absolutely loves. So I've got quite a lot of books planned for the rest of the year, which I'm really excited to get to. I feel like this first half has been sort of random books and sort of starting series. So that is it for the mid-year freak out book tag. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, then hit the like button, and of course comment below, answer any of the questions you want. If you're new and you fancy subscribing, do that and ding the bell. I hope you had a great weekend. I have officially had my first day back at work today. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. It's really weird to think, oh my god, I'm going back to work after the weekend. Hopefully it was okay. I hope you had a good weekend, and I'll see you on Thursday for another weekly reading vlog.